This beautiful boy spent nearly 3 years tied to a heavy, 1-foot chain, exposed to extreme weather, lacking consistent food, water, and love. Then one day, a compassionate woman discovered him and decided to take action. Will he finally experience the life he deserves? Follow his journey on the Pets in Love channel to find out. Maya had always been drawn to animals, especially those in need. As a volunteer at a rescue organization in Bangalore, she had seen her fair share of heart-wrenching cases, but nothing quite prepared her for the story of Vayu. The first time Maya saw Vayu, he was just a shadow under a scraggly tree, his thin body anchored by a heavy rusted chain that barely gave him a foot of freedom. The dog looked worn and defeated, with matted fur and ribs showing beneath his coat. His head lifted slightly as he spotted her approach, eyes dull and cautious, unsure of her intentions. Maya knelt a few steps away, slowly extending a small bowl of fresh water and some food she had brought. The smell of food seemed to break his hesitation. With a tentative glance, Vayu crawled toward her on his short chain, sniffing cautiously before lapping up the water and food. She watched him eat, heart aching at the sight of his desperate hunger and the quiet strength in his eyes. She could tell that beneath his thin, exhausted exterior, he was a dog who hadn't lost his will to survive. Over the next few days, Maya returned, bringing water and food each time, hoping to gain his trust and gather more information. She spoke with neighbors and people nearby, learning about Vayu's grim reality. He was estimated to be around 2.5 to 3 years old, and for most of his life, he'd been tethered to that small spot, with no shelter from the scorching sun or pelting rain. He'd had no consistent access to food or water, left at the mercy of extreme weather and anyone passing by who might toss him scraps. The more she learned, the more determined Maya became to help him. She knew she needed to act quickly. Vayu couldn't survive much longer in these conditions. She spent time talking gently to him, letting him adjust to her presence, and reassuring him that she was there to help. Each day, he grew a little less wary, allowing her to reach out and gently pet his head. Finally, when she saw a glimmer of trust in his eyes, Maya knew it was time. She contacted the rescue team, prepared her car, and returned to Vayu one last time, with a leash and her heart set on giving him the life he'd never known. Everything was ready. Vayu was free now. Once she was able to free him from the chain, she led Vayu to her car, his movement slow and unsteady as he adjusted to having more than a foot of space. On the ride to the clinic, Maya kept talking to him, hoping he could sense the safety and care he would soon receive. Vayu lay on the seat, his eyes wide, taking in the world outside with wonder, a world he had been isolated from for so long. When they arrived at the clinic, Maya carried him inside. The vet staff greeted him with gentle hands and kind voices, examining his thin, malnourished body and carefully checking for signs of injury. Vayu remained calm, letting them work as if he knew he was finally safe. They treated him for fleas and ticks, dewormed him, and began the process of getting him up to date on vaccinations. Vayu, who had once been tethered to a life of suffering, was now receiving the care and attention he'd never known. With the help of a rescue network, Maya was able to bring Vayu into the clinic, where he would begin the process of healing. The first step was giving him proper medical attention. He was treated for the fleas and ticks that had ravaged his body, and he was dewormed and vaccinated. His neutering was scheduled, and he received regular checkups to ensure there were no lingering medical conditions. To everyone's relief, despite his traumatic past, Vayu's health had been largely unaffected by the neglect. He was simply a healthy, energetic dog who had been waiting far too long for his chance at life. When Vayu finally went home with Maya, his world opened up in ways he'd never imagined. For the first time, he had a place to call his own, a home filled with warmth and kindness, a soft bed in the corner, and most of all, the gentle presence of Maya, who'd given him his second chance. But the most exciting day came when she took him to the park for the first time, a place where he would experience true freedom without a chain or a leash holding him back. As they arrived at the park, Veyu's nose twitched at the blend of new scents filling the air: freshly cut grass, the faint hint of other dogs, and the earthy smell of trees he'd never had the chance to sniff up close. Maya led him to a wide open field, unclipped his leash, and stepped back. For a second, Veyu stood still, glancing back at her as if asking, "Are you sure?" Maya gave him a nod and a gentle smile. With that, Veyu took his first hesitant step, then another, and suddenly he was off, running freely in every direction. His ears flopped as he sprinted, his tail wagged furiously, and his tongue lolled out as he explored every corner of the field. He ran in wide, joyful circles, stopping only to roll around in the grass, kicking his legs up into the air with unrestrained glee. The whole world had opened up to him, and for the first time in his life, he was truly free. Later that evening, back at home, Maya prepared his first real meal, a warm bowl of tender cooked meat. She set it down in front of him, watching as he sniffed cautiously, his eyes widening at the rich scent wafting up from the bowl. He looked up at her, then down at the bowl, and slowly he took his first bite. The taste was unlike anything he'd ever had before. Flavorful, filling, and made just for him. He closed his eyes as he chewed, savoring every bite, feeling the warmth spread from his stomach to his soul. This wasn't just food, it was love, a kind he'd never known, and he ate it with a mixture of wonder and gratitude, each bite a promise that his life had changed forever. In the days that followed, Veyu came to know the true meaning of love. Maya's gentle hand became his source of comfort, her kind voice his reassurance. Whenever she called him, he would bound over, pressing his head into her chest as she wrapped her arms around him, whispering words of affection. He'd nuzzle her, feeling her heartbeat against his own, and in those moments he knew he was safe, wanted, and loved. For the first time, Veyu was experiencing a world without fear, a world of freedom, warmth, and boundless love. Over time, Veyu's appearance began to transform. His once matted fur began to shine, his body filled out, and the spurs of his past faded into memory. He became more confident and playful, his tail wagging enthusiastically whenever Maya appeared. As the weeks passed, Maya could see how much Veyu was thriving. His once thin frame had filled out, his fur had grown soft and shiny, and his eyes sparkled with a joy she had never seen in him before. They had developed a comfortable routine, full of daily walks, playtime in the park, and quiet evenings curled up on the couch. Each day he grew more playful, more confident, and more deeply bonded with her. Still, she knew the plan was to find him a permanent home. Maya had spent weeks trying to find the perfect forever home for Veyu. She had put out feelers, talked to friends, and met with a handful of families, but each time something felt off. Some families didn't have the patience for his high energy. Others seemed deterred by the lingering hints of his rough past, his occasional skittishness with loud noises, his need for a gentle, understanding touch. She had nearly given up on finding a family that felt right. One evening, after a particularly tiring day, Maya sat on the couch, Veyu curled up beside her with his head resting on her leg. One thought slowly took root in her mind. She looked down at him, and he tilted his head up, his dark, warm eyes meeting hers with that look of trust and love he reserved only for her. It hit her like a wave. Maybe she was looking for the wrong family. Maybe the reason none of them felt right was because he was already home.